All right. Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here to learn a little bit more about the College of Arts and Sciences and the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. My name is Rachel Skipper, and I'll be leading today's session. I am our Associate Director of Undergraduate and Graduate Recruitment, and I'm happy to see all of you admitted students here on Zoom. It's an exciting time of year, and I'm glad that you're planning to spend some time with us this afternoon. Our first order of business today is to congratulate you on your admissions. I know you've heard congratulations from us a number of times at this point, perhaps at the late point in the admitted student season, but that doesn't make us less excited to meet with you and to again have another opportunity to congratulate you on being admitted to Syracuse. We hope this is an exciting time for you. It's an exciting time for us. And again, excited to learn about your interests a little bit more today and connect with you further. Before we get too far in the session, I want to let you know that Megan on the call is one of us. She's a Syracuse student, not an audience member. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Megan. I am a graduating senior. I'm graduating Syracuse in 2 weeks. Go Orange. Super excited to be here with you guys tonight, answer questions, and provide any extra help that I can. I'm really excited.
So Megan will be chiming in throughout today's session. She's someone who's very familiar with all things Syracuse, and I've known Megan since before she decided to commit to the university. So she'll be telling you about all her experiences from 4 years, chiming in throughout the session. I will point out that it would be wise of you to ask Megan questions. You don't get that many chances to connect with our current students as admitted students. This is a great opportunity. The Q&A section, which if you're on Zoom is at the bottom of your screen in your meeting controls. If you're on your phone, it's at the top of your screen. A little button that says Q&A is open now and will remain open throughout this session. So if questions come to your mind, just let us know using the Q&A and we will get to those questions either during the session or at the end during our dedicated time for Q&A. And again, it's fine to direct those questions directly to Megan, to me, or to both. So moving forward, I want to think a little bit about your next steps toward admission. So as some of you may know, the first step is to accept your offer of admission. If you have not done that yet already, May 15th is our new deadline. May 1st was our deadline, but as many of you know, our financial aid process is behind this year alongside many other universities in the US. So we are extending our deadline to May 15th. So if you'd like to enroll, May 15th is the deadline to accept the offer that we've extended to you. In June, you will be talking to your advisor about your class schedule. You'll also, I'll mention, be applying for housing and putting in your preferences, including roommate preferences for housing on campus during June. So that's a busy month and an exciting one with next steps for you. In July, you'll be packing to come move in on campus. And that is another kind of jam-packed and exciting time. We'll be sending you a lot of information about living in the dorms, what you can bring, what you're not allowed to bring, how to kind of fit into your new life in a college dorm, which is a big transition. And then welcome week will be in August. That is the week immediately prior to the first week of classes. Exact move-in dates and welcome week dates are not yet announced, but they will be in the coming months. And classes will begin then on August 26th. So for those of you wondering when your first day of college classes will be, we do have that date, and that's August 26th. Megan, do you want to chime in about any of this process? I know there's a ton of information on one side, but maybe just kind of your memories from your transition and your first steps on campus.
Definitely. This is an extremely exciting time that you guys will remember forever. Some of you may have different feelings about this just because like you're coming from high school to college. So it's super exciting, a little bit scary, but I promise that coming here is super, super exciting. There's this whole Goon Squad team that will literally be there once you get there on campus, help you unpack. There's so many different events during Welcome Week, and you meet so many different people. I feel like the school does such a great job with making you feel welcome on campus, helping you find new friends, getting to meet people. So it's an exciting time, and I think it's something that you'll definitely remember the rest of your life, honestly, coming.
Yes, it's a big transition. We do have an entire information session that was hosted by the Central Office of Admission that covers move-in, orientation, student welcome, all of those things. And I did leave that in the chat. So keep an eye on the chat for kind of useful resources I'll be sharing with you throughout the session. Like Megan said, it's a fun time and a memorable time, but there's a lot of stuff that happens during that time. We want to make sure you're in the loop. So if you're curious about that now, thinking ahead, feel free to watch the session that I just shared with you in the chat after we log off today. What I know is on some of your minds now, in terms of your first steps on campus is classes and academic plans. And that is kind of squarely within my territory, specific to arts and sciences at Maxwell. So we'll spend a good amount of time on that today. I know many of you might be thinking about the major that you list or did not list on your application if you're undecided. So we can talk about that today, and we'll have Megan weighing in on the process of building an academic plan. But the major you listed on your application, or again, did not list, is just a starting point. So your advisor will be reaching out to you whether you declared a major on your application or not over the summer again, and they'll be asking you to let them know what your preferences are. Do you still want to pursue this major? Are there other programs in your mind that you're thinking about? What are your long-term goals, right? For example, being able to take a minor somewhere else on campus, or you have a goal to accomplish multiple majors and you're wondering how you can get that done, or you're undecided and you need to start figuring out what your majors will be. What are your interests in that case? What kinds of classes should we be assigning to? All of that kind of conversation will start happening over the summer. So that is just a jumping off point and one that might change. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Next up after your major, we'll be asking you to complete the liberal arts core. I get this question a lot from admitted students. What are your general education requirements? What do I have to do versus electives? All of that kind of thing. So on the screen now is what you have to do to graduate. The requirements for your major, regardless of what that is, we'll figure that out. And the liberal arts core, which is a set of classes that focus on writing, analytical abilities or language, one or the other, and social and ethical understanding of the field that you've enrolled in. So that is the first step. In addition to that, you may choose to add on more. Many of our students do. So first, a minor, kind of pursuing a few classes in an area of interest to you without doing a complete major in that topic, only 6 or 7 courses, and you can choose from across the school. So across the different schools and colleges that Syracuse offers. So maybe a business minor, maybe an engineering minor, right? Whatever topics might be of interest to you, maybe something you want to add, and that's a little bit of a light touch in terms of building onto your academic plan. Definitely could be accomplished in a standard 4-year plan. Next, on top of that might be a double major. If you are confident that you want a full second major in an additional topic beyond your first major, and that major is within the umbrella of options that we offer in arts and sciences in Maxwell, we would refer to that as a double major. About half of our students are doing this. So this is really common to do. And again, as long as you stay within the arts and sciences in Maxwell umbrella of the options that we offer, our programs are very easy to combine, doable within a 4-year plan once again. The next option that you may end up wanting to consider that is the most amount of work, and that the fewest of our students are doing, 6 or 7% of our students, is a dual major, which means you major somewhere else on campus, maybe a full business major or a full major in the Newhouse School on top of your arts and sciences or Maxwell major. This typically can be done within a 4-year plan, but it is a busy 4 years. You'll be taking more classes than your peers, and you're completing multiple sets of graduation requirements, which is why it kind of creates a busy schedule for you. But it is an option. Again, 6 to 7% of our students doing this at the moment, and a good option for people who know that they need multiple majors and they really want to put an intense focus on multiple different topics. So at the end of the day, your major is required, the liberal arts core is required, everything beyond that is optional, and you'll decide how much of that optional stuff you want to do, right? How many other majors do you want to pursue? How many minors do you want to pursue, if any? How closely related will those areas be? Megan, do you want to chime in here? How did you apply to Syracuse, and where are you now? What changes did you make along the way throughout your 4 years?
Definitely. So I applied to Syracuse in the Maxwell School. Initially, I was interested in international relations and I was accepted into that program. And then after spending some time in the program, I realized that I wanted to explore other things. So I decided to make a change. And I know that this is a lot of different information being thrown at you guys all at once. I thought I had a plan, and oftentimes, you can change your mind, and that's totally fine. But what I will say is that you're given an academic advisor for a reason, and they're definitely super helpful in terms of helping you figure things out. Once you get to Syracuse, you don't have to decide on your major until sophomore year. So even if you are in one major, you can always change. So I ended up changing to policy studies, and I added a French minor onto that as well. And I also I'm on the pre-law track here. So I also, take a lot of different French classes. I take pre-law classes such as constitutional law. I just finished this semester. And then I take policy studies, which is just I'm a policy studies major, which is another name for public policy. But again, like I worked with someone to help figure that out. And for any of you who are interested in pre-med or pre-law, there are other advisors for that as well. So if you're ever interested in taking certain courses or getting involved with those, you can definitely speak with one of them, as it's not a major or minor, but there's so many different options that are great here as well. And I think something else that I was thinking about was I knew that I wanted to study abroad, and I knew that I was really interested in the Maxwell DC program. And those are two different opportunities that I took advantage of during my time here. So I think if you can think of things that you might want to do, it's helpful to think of those things earlier on, as you can share that with your academic advisor. And you guys can kind of craft out a plan as to when you have to fill out some of these liberal arts core requirements, because some of those requirements can be done abroad or off campus and others cannot be done. So again, like the more time you spend thinking about those things, the easier it is to kind of plan your track of what your college experience will look like. And you might not know what that's going to look like today. You might not know what that's going to look like next semester or next year. And that's totally okay. It can change. Mine changed, and you will have a great time. And again, I think Syracuse does a great job with just having someone there to support you every single step of the way.
Great. So hopefully that quells your fears about potentially changing your mind down the road, or if you don't feel super confident anymore about the major you listed, or if you never really felt confident in that major and you just felt like you needed to put something on the application. All of these things are totally normal. So like Megan said, finding out what major is going to be the best starting point for you, and then figuring out what you're going to add on to that is not a right now decision. It's probably the first 2 years of your time at Syracuse making that decision. So we want you to feel confident in where you end up, and we'll help you along the way to get there. We have a couple more slides coming up on advising, so we'll dive into the topics that Megan just mentioned in much more depth. So if you have questions about that, now's a great time to let us know, and we'll come to those questions in just a couple of slides. In addition to the standard 4-year plans we offer, I also want to mention to those of you who are interested in getting your master's degree that we do have 4+1 options at Syracuse, which is when you do 4 years of undergraduate, a combined 3 years of undergraduate, a combined 4th year of master's and undergraduate work, and then a final 5th year in a master's degree. So you land with a master's degree after 5 years at Syracuse. And the options for those programs are on the screen now, with multiple natural sciences and math programs, multiple social sciences programs, and any of the public communications programs in the Newhouse School. So if anyone is thinking about a master's degree, I also want to let you know that these are other forms of a 4-year plan, in this case, a 5-year plan that you could pursue with us at Syracuse. This is not a right now decision either. This would be during your sophomore year that you would be applying for these programs. But I just wanted to let you know that this may be an option for some of you. I know it might be a good fit for those of you in the room who are interested in grad school. I want to zoom back in on advising at this point. Like Megan said, we just put a lot of options at your feet, and that can be intimidating. And I want to make it very clear what kind of support you would have navigating that. So again, I'll pitch this to Megan to talk about what her personal experiences are, but this is the standard 4-year plan that our advisors have set for our students. So during your first year, work with a first-year advisor to consider options and career paths. So this is everyone, regardless of whether you've declared a major on your application or not. We consider you a little bit undecided still at the beginning. So we will be talking to you about your preferences, like I mentioned, over the summer, and working with you over the course of the first year to make sure you're happy with where you are and make changes right away if needed. During your sophomore year, either you continue to work with an advisor who is exploratory for undecided students if you did not nail down a major in your first year, or if you did find a major by this point already, work with an upper division and major specific advisor who specializes in your academic area. So again, our students are branching off in the sophomore year based on how decided they are. But by the end of the sophomore year, we want everyone to have found a major. So for some students, that takes the full 2 years. For some students, that's only in the first year. During the junior year, now that we've all decided on a major, you will all continue with career-focused advising. You will all kind of start shifting those advising questions away from just what classes, which majors, which minors, and toward what do I do with that information for a career, right? What do I need to be doing class-wise, internships, jobs, community work to prepare for a career. Often students start pursuing internships at this point. All of that, again, is happening with your same academic advisor that you would have been working with late in your sophomore year. So by the time you have a major specific advisor, we pick up with these career focused conversations. And of course, in senior year, now we're talking about jobs. We do not want you to graduate without a job. We want you to graduate knowing at least what your few options might be in terms of careers moving forward. This is not a conversation that should start after you graduate. Like Megan is, you should be thinking now during your senior year about what your next steps will be. And again, our advisors are involved with that process as well. Megan, do you want to chime in just on this timeline? And then we'll go into specifics about other forms of advising on the next slide. But for now, just kind of the trajectory of a major to a career.
Definitely. And folks, this is a long trajectory. I remember freshman year coming in and I was like, I don't know, like you don't have experience with an internship really like coming into college. So I think that you don't know, like no one really had a LinkedIn and different things like that. And those are different tools that you guys will learn more about during your time here, but also like you will be helped. Like literally Syracuse has career focus days where students gather on campus and they're taking headshots, free headshots for their LinkedIn profiles. So I feel like that all goes to show that's something more career focused, but they help you from freshman year to senior year. For this trajectory for me, as I said, like freshman year, I came in, I declared an international relations major right away. And then again, after, taking some classes and figuring out, I really like this, but I want to shift it a bit. I decided to become a public policy major, which is known as policy studies at Syracuse. And that was during my sophomore year. However, as I shared, like coming in, I knew that I really wanted to do Maxwell, DC. I was in APUS history in high school, and I was like, oh, that's a great opportunity to I have no idea what internship I want to do down there, but I'm super interested in history, super interested in government stuff. So I think that would be an awesome opportunity. So freshman year, I told my I told my advisor about that. And I thought I wanted to go to London, and then it changed to France once I, added on the French minor sophomore year as well. So again, there was some changes there, but it was continuous conversation, starting to think about those things. And then junior year is when we really started to place when those programs were going to be. So the second semester of my junior year, I went abroad to Strasbourg, France. And the first semester of my senior year, I went abroad I went to DC for the semester. I did the Maxwell DC program, and now I am graduating from Syracuse in 2 weeks. And during my time through all those semesters, I was interning and working, and now I'm getting ready to embark on the next stages of my life, figuring out what that career is going to look like. And again, it's continuous conversations with advisors, as Rachel said, planning, and you're not alone. There's other students doing these things. You have a great community here, and you'll meet people along the way. So definitely for right now, just look at the programs, think about what interests me, or if there was a certain high school class that you really liked, I would start talking to Rachel, myself, and we can connect you with people, or, really looking on the website and saying, what does Syracuse have to offer? Like you can go to New York, you can go to LA, you can go to DC, but there's also so much on campus you can do. There's abroad programs, and we'll get into more of that, but there's a lot of opportunity. Even on campus, I was heavily involved in different clubs, and you can start clubs, make clubs. So it's definitely a great place to be, and I'm super glad that I picked it.
I would second what Megan said. There are so many resources on our campus, and sometimes I feel like I'm more knowledgeable than our students even about what those resources are, because I talk about the resources for a living, whereas our students probably are just bombarded, like Megan can tell you more about if you're interested, with posters, flyers, information sessions, fairs, emails, all this stuff about everything you can do on our campus, because there's a lot. So if you're wondering now, like Megan said, how can I dig deeper into this topic? How can I explore this area? How will Syracuse help me succeed in this academic area, this career, both? Let us know. That would be a great question for Q&A today, or you can email me, of course. My email address is above, and we can talk about it more in detail. So in addition to the advising that I just mentioned, I want to point out 3 additional categories of advising that our students are using. And Megan can chime in once I explain these categories to you about which she has used and how. But in addition to the advisor that's walking you through that 4-year progression, you will have a faculty mentor that's a professor in your major. That is someone who is in each of your majors. So if you have 3 majors, that's 3 faculty mentors. And these are people that you can go to for advice about the field itself. right? So if you have a detailed question about international relations, that's probably not a question for your academic advisor that's building your 4-year plan. It's probably a question for a professor in international relations. So you would have that advisor. In addition, you have leaders in research, internship, and other categories around campus. So depending on what you get involved in, right? Greek life, a learning community within a dorm, internship positions, research positions, campus organizations, the honors program, et cetera. You'll have additional resources of advising through those organizations. So your advising network kind of grows with you depending on how much you take on. And then lastly, pre-professional advising. Megan mentioned this already, but this is advising specifically for students who are interested either in medical professions or in law school, regardless, just students who need advice in their next application process, right? This is not a group that I need to explain how stressful an application process can be. And you'll have to do that again if you want to go to med school one day, vet school, dental school, law school, etc. So we have dedicated advisors that are specifically for that purpose, and you'll take advantage of that if you need it. In the chat, I did leave links to both our pre-health advising information session and website and pre-law advising information session and website. So if you want to spend a whole hour on Zoom virtually learning just about those forms of advising, you can do that on YouTube, and those offices have websites for you to visit as well. So Megan, what would you say about this? In addition to your standard academic advisor that I know you leveraged well during your time at Syracuse, were there other people in these 3 categories or otherwise that were giving you advice that you found valuable, maybe even specifically later in your 4 years when you're making all these important decisions?
Definitely. And I feel like I can speak about all these different categories. And again, like I feel like this will change as you grow at Syracuse. You start, you come in, you're a freshman and you end as a senior. And before I go ahead, I just want to congratulate all of you guys on finishing the college application process and getting to this point. You should seriously be proud of yourself. I know, and Rachel knows that I know how stressful this is. I met Rachel at Orange Preview Day. I was one of you guys and I came and I was just, in that process and I was extremely stressed out about it. But just be proud of yourself because you've gotten to this point. But in terms of, the mentors that you'll gain on campus, it's endless. I use my faculty mentor all the time. That's someone in my field, as Rachel discussed, that's a public policy person who I talk to frequently. But I also talk to a lot of professors within that arena. Like I've taken different courses and I stay in touch with, you'll develop different relationships with these people. And I feel like you don't have to have a stronger relationship with your faculty mentor than you do a professor. If you feel it's the other way around, you can, rely on the relationships that feel strong to you. Or you can rely on both. There's really no one way of doing it. So don't necessarily feel like you have to compare yourself to your peers in terms of, oh, like I have a friend in bio who has a super strong relationship with this person and I have a strong relationship with my, I don't know, econ teacher. No, still use that person as a mentor, even if it's just a professor, because everyone has valuable advice, valuable experience to give. And a lot of our professors have done great, awesome things. But yeah, like for instance, I have a French professor who's actually abroad, who is one of my mentors, and he's been great. And he works, in the international arena. I'm really interested in international law, and that's someone who I talk to frequently. In terms of just internship opportunities and different things, I would say I'm definitely in touch with different bosses that I've had and people that I've met along the way. Specifically, a lot of people from DC I'm in touch with as well, and from the Maxwell DC program. We have great faculty there. One of my teachers literally is a news anchor, and she's one of the teachers in the Maxwell DC program. And one of my roommate last semester was working on the Hill, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's my professor on TV." So there's so many cool opportunities like that you'll have access to through Syracuse, and you'll definitely be supported as everyone here wants to help you do well. So again, I think that's amazing to have. And then pre-professional advisors, I talk to my pre-law advisor all the time. Literally feels sometimes like a therapy session, y'all. It's the law school application process is so stressful. I'm entering, the LSAT arena, prepping for that test in August, and my pre-law advisor is in the stretch with me right now. So yeah, I would say you're definitely super supported. Like we've talked about different law schools that I'm looking at. We've talked about testing resources. We've talked about just so many different things with regard to that process. And they literally have so many different resources because that's what they're there for, pre-law. So they're thinking about those things. We've talked about, different jobs that I'm looking to do prior to going to law school as I decided to take a year off. And another thing that I'll add is like specifically for the pre-law and pre-med, pre-health arenas, you will have specific sessions that Syracuse offers with some of these resources. So for instance, I decided to sign up with Testmasters. That is an LSAT company. The LSAT, for those of you who don't know, it's the law school entrance exam. And that's a big test. So anyway, I was in a Testmasters session at, through the pre-law advising, a free session that they do with every single test company or most of them, because I didn't know where to start. So I just signed up and it was literally like a free trial of, oh, this is what a day in the life of our course looks like. And that was super helpful for me because that's not offered through the test companies very often. So Syracuse does that. So that was super unique. And it actually showed me like, wow, this is a test company that I want to use to help prep for the test. And you can think of the LSAT like the SAT or the ACT. So yeah, like I would say that Syracuse is always going the extra mile to support you. And even like me, like I'm in touch with Rachel, I'm on Dean's team here, and I love talking to students like you, and there are different activities like this that you can get involved in while you spend your time here. So you're always supported. And I think that's something that should make you feel comforted, even when you don't know what you're doing, because there'll be somebody there to help guide you along the way.
Great. I hope that's feeling motivating for all of you, right? Maybe quelling some of your stress about moving forward into this busy time. If you have questions again about anything that Megan is mentioning, or want to follow up with us about those kinds of advising she's mentioning, or how to get in touch with these people, or get Megan's advice on how to get the ball rolling in these ways, just let us know. Again, the Q&A is open for you to tell us what your questions are. I want to focus a little bit next on what a day in the life might look like as a Syracuse student, or I guess a week in the life, starting with this slide. This is what a typical freshman student schedule might look like. As you can see, this is feeling light compared to the amount of time you're spending in class right now. And I hope that's exciting. A senior schedule might look more like this, right? So you'll get more customization of how you want to arrange your classes, times that you do and do not want to be in class, changing the intervals of time between classes, right? The student did not want a lot of time in between classes. As you can see, other students want a little bit of a break between classes, and that would be up to you. So a week in life of a Syracuse student really is custom to what they want and how they manage their time. But I don't want you to get too excited about all of that blank space you're seeing in these schedules, because our students' schedules fill up really quickly. So again, looking back at what maybe a standard first year schedule might be like, one of our students volunteered all of her free time commitments. This is her schedule, but she also let me know what she's doing outside of class. So I want to share that with you, what her schedule looked like. So between these two classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, she stays on campus and just does homework in between classes. That's really common. I'm sure Megan would agree. There's a lot of times when our students, instead of going home between classes or taking a nap in their dorm, just kind of stay in the academic mindset, right? Maybe go get lunch on campus, sit in the library, work on stuff in between classes. She also has student organization that met every week. So student life and kind of the campus activities you're involved in will be part of your normal weekly schedule in between classes. That's really common. She worked in 2 research labs, so she had a lot of time committed to undergraduate research. She was a communication sciences and disorders student, so she was working in a speech lab and in a hearing lab in that department. She had a campus job on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So in the mornings, she was on those days working on campus. And she also had a schedule in the weekends where she was on a step team. So Saturday and Sunday was practicing, and also it was in a fraternity. So on Sundays, she had 5 to 7 p.m. meetings. So again, she's really involved in campus. She has a lot going on, even on the weekends. And I should probably include on this slide, in those hours after 7 p.m., I kind of doubt she was just hanging out doing nothing. She was probably doing a lot of homework, studying, prepping for exams, doing readings to prep for her classes, et cetera, during this time. So Megan, does this schedule resonate with you? Are there differences in how you manage your time? Are there differences in how you like to schedule your classes? What does your week look like compared to this?
Definitely. And I can kind of paint a picture of what my freshman year schedule looked like versus my schedule now. I know that for those of you who haven't done this before, because in high school you have 8 classes and it's all at the same time and you follow it, this can feel overwhelming, or it can feel comforting seeing some of that white space. Whichever one you're in, like, don't worry about that. college is very unique in the sense that you have the opportunity to really organize your own schedule and get involved in things that you want to get involved in. I would say freshman year, my schedule was very similar to this. I was a weight room attendant at the gym. I was studying a lot, but then I also was in different organizations. I helped co-found BSU on campus, that's Black Student Union. I was in a singing group on campus, then I was also playing intramural soccer. And then again, I had work study, so I was also working as well. So I definitely, the blue gaps that you see on the schedule, I had, a similar schedule in terms of filling that stuff in. And then I think the idea of doing homework and studying is something that I do now and something that I did freshman year too. And that's super helpful as well. And you'll learn, like, for instance, what I do is if I have a heavier class paired with a lighter class, I like to fit those homework study sessions in between those gaps, just because it allows you to stay in that academic flow, but then not be exhausted moving into the next class. I think you learn as you go, like what's the best type of schedule or routine for you based upon how the class feels, based upon, okay, do I have work later? Do I have research later? Today, my schedule looks a lot different. Today, I am not today, but I mean like senior year. Senior year, my schedule looks a lot different. I'm an intern for the Council on Foreign Relations right now, so I have that. I'm also self-studying for the LSAT as well, so I have those two things outside of class. And then, I'm in certain classes like constitutional law, and then that's a heavier class, but I've paired that with other classes, that are also like fun classes. Like I see on here on the schedule, there's dance, which is more of like a leisure fun class, and I'm in some classes like that as well. And then again, I don't work. I chose not to have any classes on Friday during my senior year as well, which was super helpful. So that allows me to, make fun plans, but also like have more hours to work during the day for my internship as well. So again, like creating your schedule is something that becomes more flexible after freshman year. Freshman year, you kind of your schedule, you have certain things that you have to do. And you still have room, but that really changes as you, become a sophomore and move forward within that tier system. And then again, you get to really design this based upon what you're doing. So if you're working on campus job, if you're doing research, if you're in clubs, if you're interning, and your schedule, once you write it out and you'll work with your advisor with it, it feels so routine for you and so comfortable, you get adjusted to it. I'd say that's a really great way to find success, specifically like transitioning from high school to college, of just having a routine of, learning, okay, I'm going to do homework now, I'm going to study now. I'm someone as well who also finds it helpful to write down certain exam dates or like big assignments in Google Calendar. That's a piece of advice for you guys as well, as you'll like stay on top of everything, because in college, your teacher's not always going to say, oh, remember that this homework assignment is due or that's due. So I'll drop my email in the chat, at the end if you guys ever want to reach out or have questions. But if you have questions now, like don't hesitate to put things in the chat. We're happy to get to those as well. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Super helpful. I will mention, like Megan said, that different students use different resources to manage their time, right? So some students like to have a physical calendar where they're managing things. Other students are into like bullet journaling, for example. Other students use Excel sheets to track their assignments. Other students, like me, rely heavily on like a Google Calendar and Outlook calendar, and we'll put everything there. So if you want to go to our student ambassador Instagram, we'll talk about that more in just a few minutes. But while we're on the topic, there are more examples of different students' schedules, which is cool to see like how different people's weeks and days are different. And also there are some tips for organizing your time on there as well. So I want to also point to research and internships a little bit more in depth than we talked about them so far. As prospective students, I know you all have heard about the research and internship opportunities on our campus already, but we've pointed to them in this session and mentioned a little bit about Megan's internships, for example, and also how these kinds of things fit into the students' schedules. So I just want to take you through a few points that you should keep in mind when thinking about research and internship opportunities on our campus. In terms of research, first, we're an R1 designated school, meaning that all of our faculty are actively engaged in research. So that means every single one of your professors is doing research projects in a research lab, publishing, writing books, etc. Megan can tell you a lot of times the books that you're reading in class are books that our faculty have written or collaborated on. So you're working in real time with people who are doing this kind of work. You can do research across disciplines. A lot of times I get the question, okay, I'm majoring in biology, so do I have to work in a biology lab? No, you can work in any research organization across campus that you're interested in. And that is really nice to be at a school where there are many possibilities across disciplines for research. We also commit $1 million annually to undergraduate research, and we have an office on campus called The Source, where you can go for support in the research process, to ask questions, to get started, to get finished with a research project, to publish something that you're working on, etc. So The Source is a really good example of the kind of support that we offer to undergraduate students doing research, and I left the link to their office in the chat. I'll also mention that our honors program requires research. So if you enroll in the honors program, you will be doing research as part of your graduation requirements. And they publish those undergraduate projects. So if you want to see what our honor students have been working on recently, you can see examples of those in our undergraduate research journal, which is called The Crown. And I left a link to that in the chat for you as well. Internships, I think, are much the same story, right? Something we encourage you to do, something that will make you more competitive for jobs. And again, this is interdisciplinary, so you can go into any field or professional setting you might want to, and we would encourage you to be kind of creative in finding opportunities that spark your interest and will prepare you to work in a field that you really love one day, and we will help you. Like Megan said, this is a supported process, so you can go to your academic advisor who's assigned to you, or to the university's central career services websites, or use our platform Handshake, which lists a lot of resources like job postings that are right on campus or in the city of Syracuse, et cetera, for you to consider. We do career development workshops, career fairs on campus. Megan already mentioned free headshots every semester on campus, mock interview practice, resume writing support, all of those kind of resources around campus. So again, there's a lot of support for students professionally. Most of the time they're using that advice to get internships while they are with us. And then they're also using that advice to get jobs nailed down for after graduation. I want to point to some examples of people who have done these things, as I think that's a maybe even more helpful example of how you can use these experiences to get a job. So Elisa Marie Yatras on the far left side of the slide was a recent student ambassador. She was a psychology major. She did clinical psychology research at our local veterans hospital. The VA hospital is right next to our campus, and she was working with patients that were struggling with substance use disorders, and now she's a case manager, so that obviously goes hand in hand, and she'll be using that experience to move forward in graduate school for psychology. Naya Shaw, right next to Elisa Marie on this slide, was a biotechnology student. She worked in 2 different biotechnology labs, and her first job right after graduation was a biotechnology researcher at Senda Biosciences, and she was recently promoted to a senior research associate at DuPont Therapeutics, where she's working now. I'll point to John Jankovic as well as a good example of a Maxwell student doing internship work with the local Syracuse government, and then went on right after graduation to work for the Democratic National Committee, and again recently got a promotion to operations manager from that first position. So this is true for all of our graduates who go on to powerful careers. They really start at Syracuse using advice from our advisors, the resources that Syracuse offers, and very often internship positions that they then leverage to get where they want to go. I imagine that Megan will one day be on this slide, and I'm excited for when that time comes. But Megan, do you want to chime in here at all? You've already given some great information, so if you feel that you've covered it, that's fine. But if there's anything in addition you'd like to say about just kind of the process of prepping for careers or resources that you found important, I'd welcome you to chime in.
Definitely happy to jump in. I would say, so this will help some of you. When I started, I didn't have a college resume. So I did have a resume of different things that I've done, but I didn't have here's my resume, I'm ready to submit it for actual careers and getting involved and things like that. So Handshake is such a useful tool that Rachel mentioned, which literally has it has the link to career services on there. So you will use that link, and they literally help so many freshmen and sophomores create resumes, which is super awesome. And you compile that resume based upon different experiences that you've done on campus, and then you build to do that. So my first internship, I was on a congressional campaign, and that gave me an introduction to government. And now, as a graduating senior, I just finished a White House internship last fall. So it kind of shows, from where I started to where I am now. And a lot of those different experiences that I gathered along the way have definitely helped me get to where I am today. And even if you've never started before, that's what, we're here for. They will help you find a starting point, and then you really take it from there on your own, and you use them for advisement. Last summer, I interned for Senator Cory Booker. I was in the Senate. Right now, I'm working for the Council on Foreign Relations. It's a foreign policy think tank. So I've done like a bunch of different things, but I really got my start here at Syracuse. And, I was helped, I was guided. I compiled my resume, I applied for different things. Handshake is such a great tool. That's where I found, one of the jobs I was talking about, being on the campaign for, former Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. I found that position through there. And again, if you sign up for different listservs as well, for instance, within your major, they're going to share different opportunities as well that are available. So you definitely have time. I would get started sooner than later. I know that coming into college, it's a different feeling, but I would definitely say you will not have time to do everything that you think you will have time to do. I can say that now looking back. And trust me, like I've done so many different things abroad. I interned for the Council of Europe. I've done a lot of different things, but there's still always more to do. So I would say start sooner than later, and enjoy every moment of it because it goes so fast. It feels like just yesterday that I was talking to Rachel about wanting to come here, and now I'm here. So definitely get involved sooner than later. If you're interested in doing research, express that to a teacher. If you're interested in interning later, specifically in government, try to get involved early. Do something like what I did, start on campaigns and then build. But if you're interested in doing a combination of both, working in the private sector, you just intern. And even if you have an internship and you're like, oh, this was for me, or oh, that's not for me, that's okay. That's what those things are there for. They're there to help you figure out, is this something that I could see myself doing later on? If great, incredible. If not, you tried it, and you build and you learn and you meet people along the way and you develop different connections. And, as an alum, I'm definitely here for you all. And there'll be so many other people on this campus who we've already discussed that'll be there for you as well. Career services, super helpful. Yeah, you're definitely going to find your way, and you'll be able to discuss this with also people in your class as well who are right there with you, finding their way. And who knows, you guys might be in one of the same internships together. So definitely, you have a lot of time, but again, as I emphasized, I would start sooner than later with some of these things. Nothing to stress about. There's just so many different things that you're going to want to do, and it's going to change as you further develop and get to know yourself here at Syracuse.
Completely agree. I think you'll find that our orientation and welcome week will be a good starting point for you to think about some of these resources. And again, a lot will be coming at you during those days, right? A lot of new stuff, a lot of opportunity. And like Megan said, we are here to help you sort through it now a little bit. If you're just eager, right, and want to get started, totally support that. Would encourage you to then take a look at some of the resources that I shared with you today, or contact Megan or me, right? So that we can say, here's what we would advise that you take a look at, or, maybe make this bucket list for your first year of organizations, offices, support resources to check out. All right, I want to let you know additionally how you can connect with our students beyond Megan. We are going to spend the rest of the time after this slide of just Megan and I answering whatever other questions you have. But beyond that, you can continue to connect with us online. We do, like I said, have a student ambassador Instagram that you can follow with all stories that are generated by our students. I really like the account because it's a look from the student perspective at life at Syracuse, what they think you should know about our campus. Right now we're doing a series where students shared why they decided to enroll at Syracuse. So every other day for the next couple of weeks, we'll be sharing a post from a student sharing what influenced their decision, why this was the right fit for them. And I think that, those quotes and photos might be helpful for you all at this point in your process. So our Instagram is a good place to go to hear from our students. I'll mention that immediately after tonight's session, also there's a Q&A session that is all students. So Nathan, who is one of our interns at admissions, runs these sessions where it's only students there. So he invites student ambassadors to join him, prospective students sign up, and it's just a group conversation on Zoom where they answer whatever questions you want to ask about our culture on our campus, what it's like to be a student with us, a little bit even more informal than tonight's session. It is just Q&A. So if you'd like to attend that, there's still time to register. You just need to register before 7 p.m. to get in. And the link to that is in the Q&A. I'll leave up the QR code for the student ambassadors for the next couple of slides. But at this point, Again, I think Megan is a very valuable resource to you all. I work full-time answering your questions. I can answer your questions anytime. Megan is here with you on a much more limited basis, obviously. So I want you to make sure that you're asking good questions. We already had 2 questions come into the Q&A that I responded to already. So thanks both of you for already asking some questions. But if you have questions about the topics on the slide now as a starting point, those would be good to ask. Classes, assignments, or exams, right? Time management also is part of that. Student clubs and organizations on campus that she's interested in, or if you have recommendations, you know, Megan, you could share them. If anyone wants to know, do we have organizations related to X interest? That would be a good question. Hobbies and social life on campus, study abroad. Megan talked about study abroad, but not a ton, and I'm sure you would all like to know more, so that's a good topic to ask about. We talked a good amount about internships, career prep research, student projects, but again, if you have further questions, let us know. Megan, looks like the first one in the chat would be for you, since I never lived in the dorms. What was your experience with the dorms on campus?
Living in the dorms on campus is very fun. It's a great place to meet a lot of different people as well, like as you start out, but it's not the only place to meet people. And I feel like don't feel like you have to make all your friends freshman year. I think that's a misconception that some people have. Like you will make friends and change friends and do all of those things at your time while you're at Syracuse. So living in the dorm is definitely a great starting place. There's literally different events. I remember my freshman year, like we did little events on our floor, which was super fun. I was also in a dorm sophomore year. That was fun. You're gonna have an RA, residential advisor, and that person will be your point person there in the dorm. And again, like they'll like do little fun floor events where you can get to meet and get to know everyone on your floor. It's just a really great place to be. I was in Flint Hall freshman year. That's on the Mount, and that's great. So you'll get to, you know, depending on where you are, you'll connect with other people in different dorms as well. And it's a cozy place to be. There's study lounges in there. In Flint and Day, which are both the 2 halls on the Mount, there's access to like a downstairs snack room area, which is great. There's study lounges. So yeah, living in the dorms are a special experience as well.
We have a question about finding a roommate, which I think might be different now, Megan, than what it was when you started on our campus. We used to use an app called My College Roomie, which I think is what Jonathan is asking about. We no longer use that app. We found that students were more successful finding roommates using our Syracuse-based system, which is a survey system. So you can put in all the preferences that you have, like that you're clean or more messy, that you get up early or stay up late, or both, I guess, for some people. What kind of social time you want in your dorm versus alone time in the dorms. So we use a survey, and then we connect you to potential students that you might want to room with who have complementary preferences. There are also groups like Facebook groups and things like that that you can use to find people who are going to Syracuse and find roommates through those channels. And that can certainly be a popular way to find roommates, or you can choose to go with a random roommate. We actually find that the students who choose random roommates or go with a random roommate option are longer term roommates than the people who think they figured it out themselves. So I know going with a random roommate is scary, but those are the more successful pairings at the end of the day for whatever reason. Megan, do you want to talk about finding roommates or advice you have for what to think about as you are choosing a roommate?
Definitely. And I can talk to both because I can speak to both. Freshman year, I went random. That was exciting. It was fun, and that worked out for me. I remember my junior year, I lived with a bunch of friends and we lived off campus in a house, and that was a lot of fun too. But I think there's definitely like pros and cons of both. I think when picking a roommate, it's important to be honest with yourselves and for them to be honest. Like, what type of person are you? Do you want to live with someone who's messy? Do you want to live with someone who's clean? One of my friends, this is funny, she literally is a very, very clean person, and she cleaned the house wearing like big like headphones, listening to like jazz, and was just like very clean. Like it had to be a certain way. Love her to death. But it's like I think it's important for you to know like what type of people do you want to live with and what type of person you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's something to just think about. But it's a lot of fun. And again, like it changes. Like I encourage you guys to just take chances, have fun. Even if you do random, like that'll be a super great experience. Love my roommate. There's also like a lot of things on campus, such as there's like the club fair, which is super fun. And I suggest all of you guys go to that. Like that's a great introduction it happens every fall and every spring. All the different clubs come out on the quad, and you just kind of like go around, you have a cute little bag, and you go to all the tables and figure out, what you like, sign up for stuff, and you don't have to commit to anything. And again, like, you won't have as much time as you think. So I would do some of these things earlier on. Like, you'll sign up for like 15 tables, and then in reality, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can only join 3 clubs or 2 clubs or something like that. That was me. And then another thing I think, which is great, for exams and things like that, there's a system called Class at Syracuse, literally Class in all caps. And that is a great tool in terms of, like, if you're taking a certain class and you need help with it, like, they do sessions, and you can check. So during finals, I remember in my econ class, I would go to that, and literally like 10 of us would show up, and we would just get tutoring for that. And it really, really helps. So if you're in certain classes that are harder, like, there's so many resources on this campus to do. They also have like time management sessions, and there's this thing also called the Peel, where you'll get emails about like fun things. Like, the gym is doing a pool party next week, which I think is super fun. So there's so many ways to meet people and pick roommates for other semesters too. So even if you start with one roommate, you don't have to be with that roommate all 4 years, or you could. It's really up to you. But I think that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, get to know them first before you sign on. Make sure you guys vibe, or you can at least live together. Like, you don't have to be best friends with your roommate, but you can be, or just as long as you guys can live together. I think that's super important to know.
Agree. Finding a roommate is scary at first because you don't necessarily have a ton of connections, and then you have more freedom moving forward to decide who you want to live with. But I think Megan's advice about really think about what you need in your environment and can't deal with in your environment seriously as you're filling out these forms, and be honest about your own habits, right? Like, if you're a night out, just say that. If you're not super tidy, just say that, right? Because it'll pair you with a roommate that is more compatible with you as well. So the survey system tends to work well. Random roommates tend to work well, and we use those survey answers when we pair people with random roommates. But if you have further questions about life together in the dorms, et cetera, let us know. I'll mention that I left a link to living learning communities as well in the chat. And those are groups of students that live together based on a shared interest, right? So there's like a psychology and action one for psychology majors. There's a Maxwell community. There's an outdoor pursuits community for students who are just outdoorsy, multicultural community, LGBTQ plus community, et cetera. So if you are wanting to kind of opt into a community of students in addition to or instead of just a roommate, those are great options for you. And the link is in the chat right now. Okay, so I see another question. If you're admitted as a freshman to arts and sciences, undecided, are the majors in Maxwell still available? Great question. Yes. Regardless of how you were admitted, Maxwell, arts and sciences with a major or undecided, arts and sciences and Maxwell work as a team. So you can switch in between our majors by filling out a form, and you're all set. So that's the same liberal arts core for both. It's the same advising system. It's the same graduation requirements. It's just different majors in the 2 schools. That's the only difference. Some of the majors are in the Maxwell school, some are in arts and sciences. So if you want to switch between arts and sciences or Maxwell, it's not different than switching within arts and sciences or within Maxwell. You just talk to your advisor, fill out a form for the program, and you're all set with that different major. So moving between the schools is just as easy as moving within the schools as far as arts and sciences and Maxwell are combined. If now you're wondering, what about the other schools on campus? It's not as easy. It's called an intra-university transfer to switch to other schools on campus. So let's say you take a few classes in the business school, and now you think you want to be a business major instead of an arts and sciences or a Maxwell major. You would then apply to the business school as a Syracuse student. And it's not the Common App all over again. It's a much simpler application process, but it is an application and it is selective. So it is an application if you want to move to a different school on campus, but staying within arts and sciences and Maxwell is very easy.
I can speak to that also for a second too. So I was a peer mentor for first year international students, and one of my mentees wanted to switch into Newhouse. So literally all semester, she and I worked to help make that happen. And it's not as scary as you guys think. I think it's also just about like doing extremely well your first semester, and really getting to know the other school and the programs offered. So I would suggest, if you're interested in that, find someone who's a peer mentor, talk to an advisor, and really make a plan with them early on and figure out what it is that you need to do in order to fulfill whatever requirements are necessary but I think it definitely is a possibility as she had success and was able to switch into new house. And she was a freshman and she started off as a sophomore in new house. And again, we worked on it all semester long. So yeah, it's definitely doable. And as I said earlier, like this campus is super supportive. So if you want to be supported in a certain area, or if you don't know the steps of what to do, don't be afraid to ask for help or ask a question. Somebody will be there to help you out.
Absolutely. Great advice, Megan. It's really been a pleasure as always having you here, and solid advice throughout. I'm very glad that you attended today's session, and I hope everyone in the room feels like they've been learning a lot from Megan. I don't have new questions in the Q&A, so I believe that we are coming to the end of today's session. I want to make sure that you have my contact information. I'll leave my email address in the chat now for those of you who need to cut and paste. That is available to you. If you have questions moving forward, just let me know. I'm happy to answer them via email. I'm happy to jump on another Zoom call with you or a one-on-one phone call, if that would be helpful. My colleagues, Chris A and Chris B are on the slide now. And you're also welcome to reach out to them if you have questions. Chris B is a Maxwell alum, so he's another person like Megan that you could talk to about the Maxwell experience. And like I said, our student ambassadors are also on Instagram and available to chat with you there. So you can DM the account and we can connect you to a student ambassador, or again, you can email me and I can connect you to someone beyond Megan, who I know has been really helpful, but isn't every Syracuse student. So if you want to talk to a STEM student, for example, or someone from California or whatever it is that you are thinking is going to be close to home for you, just let us know. Megan, thank you for spending time with us again today. It's always a pleasure to have you in these sessions, and I know what a busy time of year it is. So I'm especially grateful for you taking an hour out of your time right now, nearing the end of the semester. Admitted students who are in the room, again, thank you for your time as well. I know there are a ton of admitted student sessions and college visits you can be doing right now. And I'm glad that you chose to spend some time on Zoom with us tonight. I really hope it was helpful, and I encourage you to reach out to me in the future if you have more questions for us. So with that, I'm going to close the session. Thank you all for being here. It was great to talk to all of you, and we'll talk to you next time. Go Orange, and let me know how I can be of help in the future.